Hey, this is Kevin Kelly. Get ready for the latest episode of the Stardom Cast.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodnight, joined as ever by independent wrestling's Matt Turner. Matt, how are you, good sir?
Rob Goon, I am fantastic as always. Today was a long day, but it was a very productive day, and it was a good day because bad days don't exist. But what a better way to unwind my day than talk to you, sir. One of my favorite people in the world to talk to. And of course, one of my favorite subjects that we're going to be talking about today. And that would be the professional wrestling company that is Stardom. I'm assuming that's why we're on the Discord today, as we're here to talk about Stardom, correct?
You would assume so, as we are a Stardom-centric podcast. It's a company that toys with us. Someone on Twitter pointed out that obviously we're in the midst of the Triangle Derby at the moment. And we'll be talking about the shows in Korakuen Hall, Nagoya, and in Aichi, where the Tam Road show, should I say. But someone did point out on Twitter that Stardom is the only company that can have a streaming service but have two shows that are live everywhere else that you can watch, but not on the streaming service that you pay for. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, because Nagoya was on pay-per-view and the 70th anniversary show was on YouTube, but none of them went up on Stardom World until, I think, Nagoya went up yesterday as we're recording. It's Thursday the 12th. And the 70th anniversary show didn't go up till this morning. So, 4-day layover was quite interesting. The Anjo show. So
unbelievable. Yeah, I just saw the Tam tribute show, whatever, just went up today. And I'm like, that's weird because literally Monday morning I woke up and I was kind of scrolling through Twitter and they're like, yeah, live feed of this show is on YouTube. And I'm like, I literally text you and I was like, of course they can do it. They have the technology. Not only do they have the technology to give us live shows, every fourth show doesn't need to be a pay-per-view, does it? What do I know?
Oh my God. Yes. We will talk to that. We will talk about that when we get to Nagoya, because I think it's bad enough that we have, 535 pay-per-views a year. I might be exaggerating slightly. But to then suddenly spring one on us with little to no advertising whatsoever, because at no point up until, 2 days before the Nagoya show was it announced that it was going to be a pay-per-view. But do you know what? It doesn't matter, because for all of those querisome things that Stardom will occasionally throw up, they then deliver shows like Supreme Fight in Osaka, which we are going to be talking about because they announced the full card for that the other day through the press conference. So we'll talk about that in a moment. We've got lots of bits of news to talk about as well. And obviously, as I've said, we're going to talk the continuation of the inaugural Triangle Derby. But Matt, before we do anything good, sir, what on earth is happening with the Patreon this week?
On Patreon, literally minutes before we came on to record, the Hanan Future of Stardom Championship title run for the white and red belt tier is up on the Patreon. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I had a fantastic time going back and watching those matches and then doing the show as well. And then at the end of the month, Starlight Kid, High Speed Championship reign, that'll be up at the end of January. As far as the red belt tier Patreon, the alternate commentary, just this past Monday, Rob and I did alternate commentary to Utami and Mayu for the World of Stardom Championship back in 2020. And then this week coming up, we have Azumi defending the High Speed Championship against, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know how I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it in confidence.
Go on,
Koryanonomo. Yeah,
there
it is.
Oh, yes, absolutely smashed
Did I get it? So that,
yeah, close enough.
Whatever, round up. So that'll be up on and we'll have to talk off air when it's convenient for both of us to record that. But that'll be up on Monday for the Red Belt tier Patreons, and then next week will be to end the month will be Julia defending the World of Stardom Championship against Tam Nakano at All-Star Dream Cinderella, the hair versus hair match. So that's what we have coming up on the alternate commentary. Now, Rob, would you like to know what we were going to be doing in February, good sir?
I would love nothing more, Matt, than to know what we are doing over February.
Well, let's talk about the future. And you're in luck, buddy, because I just filled the DeLorean up with plutonium. And when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, Rob Goodwin, you're going to see some serious shit. If you do not get that reference, please DM me right away, because we will be talking about some Back to the Future then. So let's get into the DeLorean. Here's what's going to happen in February. February will be Rivalry Month. I will be putting up the poll on my Twitter probably in about a week or so. And if you don't want to vote on the Twitter page, you can always DM me or send me an email on the Stardom Cast 22@gmail.com. So what you're going to be able to vote on is these are the 4 rivalries that I've settled on. Azumi versus Starlight Kid, Mayu Iwatani versus Momo Watanabe, Shuri versus Utami Hayashishita, and Io Shirai versus Kairi Hojo. So when that poll goes on the Patreon, whatever the 2 gets the most amount of votes, like we always do, I'll be watching every single one of the singles matches between those 4 rivalries. And then that's what basically we'll be doing for the bi-weekly podcast, is I'll be going through them, giving my star rating, and then reviewing them. So again, look for that probably in the next week or so. So then what we're going to be doing for the alternate commentary, good sir, is we're going to be doing one match from each of those rivalries. Again, Azumi, Starlight Kid, Shuri, Utami, Io, Kairi, and Mayu versus Momo. Now, I've already done we did Azumi, Starlight Kid from Cinderella Journey 2022. We did Shuri versus Utami, which I believe was the first alternate commentary watch along from the 5.5 star match from Cinderella Tournament Final in 2021, and Mayu defending the World of Stardom Championship against Momo Watanabe from the 9th anniversary show. However, if you, Mr. Rob Goodwin, would like to go back and do those matches, and more importantly, not that you're not important, but more importantly, if the friends and family of the Stardom Cast would say, you know what, I really liked it when Matt did Mayu versus Momo, but I would really like to hear Matt and Rob do it together, then absolutely, then that's what we'll do. Now, again, we're gonna pick one match from each of those rivalries. So you're probably wondering who on earth is going to be tasked with picking one of each of those matches. Well, Rob, I've enlisted a person that I think is more than qualified. You know what? I can't even say I enlisted this person because I didn't even ask them yet. So the person that I'm going to ask to pick one of each of those matches he's an author. He's an author of the book. You may have read it, Living the Dream, Stardom's 10th anniversary in review. Mr. Rob Goodwin, I'm going to ask you live on air. I'm putting all the pressure here.
Oh, Jesus.
Will you do you accept this task, sir? Will you be the one to pick one of each of those matches?
Of course, I'd be happy to. Genuinely, and I know people think that we set these segues up to plug my book. Even to the point where you said he's an author, I didn't realize you were talking about me.
My God, I do it all the time.
I was like, who the hell does he know that's an author? But yes, I'd be more than happy to, man.
My aunt's an author, but she's been writing romance novels, so I don't think she's going to watch Shuri versus Utami. But whatever. Hey, if you guys want it, we'll do it. Yeah, so obviously, when you get a chance, you just pick what matches you want. And again, if it's matches that I've covered, if you want to do them, I got no problem going back and redo them. And then you pick whatever order you want to do them. If you want to do Shuri versus Utami first, second, third, fourth, whatever, that's completely up to you, my friend. So that's what we have going on the Patreon for the end of January and all of February. And again, I mentioned last week and all this week on Twitter that as this show continues to grow, we're going to be pumping out more and more bonus content. For example, when I said once we get to 50 Patreon members, we're going to be doing the alternate commentary to Julia versus Shuri for the World of Stardom Championship from just this past Dream Queendom, just about a few weeks ago. And also I will go and do the Shuri World of Stardom Championship run. And that'll be released on the high speed tier. the white belt tier and the red belt tier. So the more this show grows, then you're just going to be getting constantly more and more bonus content. And Rob and I even discussed that we're even going to expand the boundaries past Stardom, and we're going to go into my favorite era of wrestling, the All Japan Kings Road era. So there's a very good possibility that you'll be looking on your Patreon feed and you'll see some Misawa versus Taue and some Holy Demon Army stuff, just because that stuff's nobody's ever done English commentary on it. Who better than us, Mr. Rob Goodwin? Who better than us?
Absolutely. Who doesn't want to hear more of me and Matt?
Absolutely, sir. Yes, I know. And then one last thing, also, again, what we're doing so much to expand the podcast and build upon our phenomenal 2022. So what we're doing is we want to do more interviews. So I have emailed and messaged so many people, and I think Rob even said, if we get 10% of the people that you've had messaged, like, this will be a game changer for the podcast. And I'm just being super aggressive with it. So what we're doing when we do these interviews, the audio will be released to everybody on the free feed. The audio that'll go up on the Patreon as well. And we do have our first interview locked down for this year, the end of February. We're going to be interviewing women's wrestling pioneer over here in America, one Allison Danger. Allison Danger was a very big influence on the IWA Mid-South and Ring of Honor, what she did with the women's division. She helped build the Shimmer promotion and was also a coach/agent in NXT. And I know she was there when Io Shirai was there, and I'm pretty sure she was there aging matches when Kyrie was there. We'll have to ask her when we're interviewing her next month. So literally it might just be an hour of me asking her Io Shirai questions. So, and it might be the closest we get to interviewing Io Shirai. So I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. So same as when we were lucky enough to interview Kevin Kelly. Send your questions over. We'll put a Twitter thread up a little bit close to the time, but to our patrons, just leave them on the Patreon page. And again, our lovely, beautiful Discord people, just leave them in the Discord as well. Again, I'll leave some sort of thread there as well. Before we head into the litany of shows we've got to talk about, let's delve headlong into some news, and where better to start than with the announcement of Supreme Fight 2023 in Osaka. The full card was announced earlier this week, so I'll go through the announced matches and we can talk a little bit about how this is already shaping up to be a show of the year contender. So we have a Triangle Derby block match between the Unique Glare team of Ruaka, Haruka Misaki, and Starlight Kid, and then classmates Hazuki, Starlight Kid, and Koguma. There's then the Naniwa Roulette Singles Tournament, and I'll go through that in a little bit more detail once I've gone through the rest of the card, because it takes a little bit of explaining. We have got a 6-woman tag, which sees the return of Konami. We have got God's Eye, Konami, Shiori, and Namisori versus the Queen's Quest team of Utami Hayashishita, Azumi, and Lady C. We've got a special singles match, which was set up at Korakuen Hall. So we'll be talking about the build up to this in a moment, between Mirai and Chihiro Hashimoto. We have then got the tag titles, the Goddess of Stardom tag belts. They are on the line between 7-Up, the champions, and Mai Himi. And then our two, let's call it a double main event. I think that's fair. With Saya Kamatani looking to break Momo Watanabe's defense record with the white belt against none other than Momo Watanabe. I mean, it had to be done, and Stardom listened. And then, if there was any way of topping that, it's with this red belt match. Julia in her first defense of the World of Stardom Championship against rival, frenemy, Suzu Suzuki. What a card, Matt. Before I get your thoughts on that, I just want to quickly go through what the Naniwa Roulette Singles Tournament is. So, basically, it's a series of single matches that have a 5-minute time limit. You can win the match via pinfall, submission, or over the top rope to the floor. If there's a draw, both wrestlers are eliminated, and we get 2 new wrestlers. The winner at the end of this has the right to challenge for a belt. So, in effect, this is like a condensed mini version of a Cinderella tournament mixed with a gauntlet match, is how I'm seeing it. At the moment, announced for that are Momo Kogo, Natsupoi, Natsukatora, Saki Kashima, Miyu Amasaki, Mayu Iwatani, Tam Nakano, Mina Shirakawa, Mariah May, Tekla, Mei Sakurai, Yuna Mizumori, and Waka Tsukiyama. It's an exciting concept, actually, Matt. Rather than just throwing all of the unused talent in a rumble, this is a far better use of those people and far more exciting as well.
Yeah, 1,000%, because the winner gets a title shot. And again, we don't know what title they're going to go for. I'm kind of just, obviously, we'll go as the date gets closer. We'll get into a full preview. But to me, it looks like there's going to be just one of four winners, either Tam and or Natsupoi to go back after the goddess. Maybe that's how they get their title shot back against 7-Up, because I strongly believe they're going to be the ones to beat 7-Up for the tag belts. I think Mina is the clear favorite for everyone to kind of just give her a little bit more steam going into her match with Saya Kamatani, or maybe even it's Mayu. Maybe I saw Mayu gets her title shot against Julia, maybe at a big pay-per-view somewhere in March as we kind of get to the stepping stones before we get to the Yokohama Arena show. And of course, anytime Mayu is in a match where she can have a title shot, doesn't matter what title shot it is, I know that you'll back me up when I'll say 2 thumbs up. I'm all for it. Give Mayu any title shot. Whether it's the red belt, the white belt, the future Stardom belt, we don't care. It's Mayu.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. My immediate thought was Mayu's winning this. My only thought was, with it being a title shot, like it's phrased that the title shot is imminent, so they're the next in line. And my thoughts regarding Mina are, and I made them clear last week, that I think Mina's going to win the Cinderella and then challenge Saya Kamatani for the white belt at All-Star Grand Cinderella. I would love to see someone completely left field win this. Like, yes, I'd love to see Mayu have another championship opportunity, but Mayu is in that sort of stage in her career where she walks out and challenges and no one questions it. So does she need a route like this? Why not give this to someone like a Tekla or a Saki Kashima? Give them a bit of the spotlight, because I don't know how many pay-per-view Stardom are going to run between Supreme Fight and All-Star Grand Cinderella, because obviously you've got the Cinderella tournament as well. I can only assume it's going to be about 46. But
not even that many days. They're running 2 a day.
It would not surprise me. They do day and night shows in Osaka all the time. I would, even Natsupoi. It would be a great shout for Natsupoi to win this. I would love to see someone out there. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, to see someone like a Mei Sakurai win this, especially if she comes out last and just has to beat one person. Obviously, I was going to ask you about this, actually. There's still been no word on the still vacant SWA belt. And obviously, this pay-per-view is taking place at the start of February, I believe the 4th of February in the Edion Arena. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that belt. Maybe that could have been the prize for this match. I don't know what they are going to do with that belt, Matt. I was going to ask you about this on perhaps a less rammed podcast. We'll deep dive into our theories as to what's going on with the SWA belt. But if you had your heart's desire, and obviously taking Tam completely out of the running, who would you like to win this? We'll obviously do a preview, but who would you like to win this?
To win the Rumble, again, Mina, because I totally see your point of view, because I think if Mina wins this, she's going to get a title shot before Yokohama, and I think that's where it's going to be. And obviously, we'll go into the Cinderella preview as we get closer. It's considering the fact that the winner of the Cinderella is probably going to challenge for the title at Yokohama. This can possibly be the biggest Cinderella tournament, the most important Cinderella tournament of all time, considering the fact that show in Yokohama is going to be probably the most attended and the most watch of all time. So I can see them doing Mina there. Or again, I'm gonna say right now, I think Mina's gonna win it. She's gonna lose to Saya Kamatani sometime in March, and I really think maybe I'm betting here at my heart, not my head, but I really think Hazuki is going to win the Cinderella tournament, and we're gonna get Hazuki in Yokohama. I think that's just my guess. But again, we shall see, sir. We shall see.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit with Karen, and Karen sort of sounds Starlight Kid, I believe. So any of those three matches at Yokohama are going to be belters. We're not going to be disappointed with any of those three matches. But again, I do like what Stardom has done here as opposed to just doing the default, let's throw everyone in a rumble and have, all of the strong Stardom machines meld together like some sort of Power Ranger transformer. Moving on from that, now this show is not only going to be special because it is a stacked card, it's also going to be special because we're going to have cheering back. We're going to have cheering back for the first time since before the pandemic. Now, the last time there was cheering at a Stardom event was the Way to Major League, which was February 2022. For a little bit of context, since I've been doing the podcast, there have been 2 shows where there's been cheering. We are now on episode 101 as you are listening. And this is the first show since February 2020, when me and Chris first started the podcast, where there's actually been cheering. Now that genuinely makes me a little bit emotional. And to actually have, a cheering crowd and to hear the wrestlers' names. And it's going to be really, really cool as well to see the wrestlers react to that as well. We saw Will Ospreay reacting. I think he was gave the most obvious reaction at Wrestle Kingdom 17 to the fans being able to cheer. And I think we're going to see a lot of reaction. We saw Mayu actually at Rumble on 44th Street, Matt, just properly, almost like she'd forgotten what it was like to have people chant her name. So I think even if this card wasn't as stacked as it was, I would be incredibly excited for this show.
Yeah, it's an added bonus. And I know you kind of were scratching your head a little bit why Suzu Suzuki was getting the first title shot. Not that she doesn't earn it. It's not going to be a great match, but you would have figured, and I saw your point, you figured they maybe would have saved that for title defense 4 or 5. But now I think this is kind of a reason why. If you're going to have a main event, your first, Julia's first title defense, which I think is going to be, I just don't see any way this is going to be an A+++, legendary defense coming from Julian. I think she's going to do a great job taking the Stardom company to even higher heights. I think this is a good way to do it. If it's anything like their 5-star match, it's going to be an absolute banger, but now we're going to have cheering crowds. So I think that's probably the reason why. I think they knew that this was going to be a cheering crowd. We'll announce the match and then we'll announce the cheering crowd. So I think that might be, I don't know if that clears things up a little bit more for you or gives you, more of a thumbs up. But I think that might have been the reason why they went with Suzu and Julia for this, because now we have the cheering crowd.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, Matt, to be perfectly honest. I will be brutally honest. They could have thrown Julia versus Fukigen Death in the main event, and I think with the first cheering crowd since 2020, I think people still would have got remarkably into it. But either way, this is incredibly exciting, and I'm buzzing for it now. Plus, I found out the pay-per-view's on a Saturday, so I can actually watch it live. So that's going to be nice. Moving on a little bit then from...
Real quick, Rob, I just want to ask you one question. If you don't have the answer, that's fine. Do you know roughly, and I don't put you on the spot, and again, if you don't know the answer, no big deal, what this building holds roughly attendance-wise?
The Edion Arena, you're looking at about 6,000, I think.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, they'll probably do 3,000, 3,500 would be my guess probably for this. I think they'll get pretty close to it. Not 6,000, but I think they'll probably do about 3,000. I was just curious.
Well, if you look at Stardom's, we talked about last week, we talked about the Triangle Derby, the first show on the Triangle Derby. It was it wasn't even effectively, it was just 6-woman tags. There was no title matches on the line. They drew the biggest number they've ever drawn in the Yokohama Budokan. Osaka, they usually draw very well. It's a cheering crowd, and it is a stacked card. This is a card where you look at it and there's not a bad match on it. Like, there's no match there that you think, right, well, I'm not a huge Rumble guy, so if there's a Rumble on, that'll be when I go and get a cup of tea and stuff like that. But, I'm more, I'm sure I've made clear, I'm very interested by this Nanawa roulette singles match. I'm very interested in this Mirai versus Chihiro Hashimoto match. Overall, like this card is stacked. Really stacked. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think Stardom will be disappointed if they drew under 3,000 with this card.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going. I was kind of wondering what a seat, and I figured nobody knows better than you, my man.
I could be wrong. For some strange reason, obviously at the moment I'm writing a book on the 100 of the greatest wrestling matches ever, and I've literally just finished Kenny Omega versus Tomohiro Ishii from the G1 Climax 28. And that was in the Edion Arena, Osaka, and I think they drew about 5,500 people. So if you take that, I don't think it was full. So if you take that between 5,500, 6,000 people, yeah, Stardom will be disappointed, I think, if they get under 3,000.
There you go.
Speaking of ticket sales, at WrestleTix on Twitter, which is a fantastic follow, like the in-depth analysis they do is incredible, have released a graphic, or they did do, and this was a couple of days ago, so the chances are it's completely sold out now. But the New Japan Battle in the Valley show, which will be taking place on Saturday, the February 18th at 7 p.m., San Jose Civic Center. When this was posted, the only match, as far as I was aware, that was announced was Mercedes Moné versus Kairi. Now, since then, Kenta challenging for the Strong Openweight Championship against, I believe, Fred Rosser, and AIWGP World Heavyweight Championship match has also been announced for that show. But off the back, basically, of Mercedes Moné, it set up the arena for a capacity of 2,152. They had sold 2,121 just off the back of this match, meaning there was 31 available tickets left.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well sold out, or it's going to. So yeah, obviously on the back of Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, but also, I mean, obviously she's the big draw, but let's give some credit where credit's due to our champion, one Kairi.
Absolutely. I think this match it's captured the imagination. I think
dream match.
It is a dream match, 100%. I don't think, realistically, any fan of New Japan, or indeed Stardom, ever really thought that they would see a Sasha Banks. You know, we've talked about it, and I believe we talked about it on this podcast many moons ago, how, you know, we'd like to see Sasha Banks fighting against the likes of Mayu and stuff like that. But it was very much tongue-in-cheek. We didn't think it was going to happen. Whereas now it's a very, very real thing that is happening, and you can see from, you know, the quickness in which these tickets have sold out. Like, I took this photo, I did the screenshot off Twitter, I think it was January the 7th or something. So this was 3 days after a debut, which is just mental. And I know there's been buzz that it was going to happen, but even so, that's crazy. That's crazy numbers. We'll talk a little bit more about Battle in the Valley a little bit closer to the date. We'll probably talk a little bit after it, after the Supreme Fight show. Final bit of news, and it's just to do with Rin Kadokura of Marvelous, who sort of came to the ring and announced that she will be leaving Marvelous in order to go to Canada with her husband. I don't believe it was explicitly said that she was leaving wrestling, but I think it's sort of seen as something of a retirement for now anyway. Marvelous released a statement and said that anytime Rin Kadokura wants to come back, the ring is always open. But massive, massive respect to Rin. She's obviously only just got married, and to try and make that marriage work over thousands and thousands of miles is incredibly difficult. So I have full respect for her and her decision, and I wish her nothing but happiness. Do I want to see her in a ring again at some point? Yes, of course, from a selfish standpoint, obviously. But, you know, she's got to do what's right for her, and I'm glad she's chosen this path, because I think ultimately it's the right choice, Matt.
Yeah, 1,000%. As much as I love wrestling, I mean, it's, you know, if you heard me on this podcast once, family is the most important thing, and good on her. Nothing but respect for her. I'll echo your sentiments. She's fantastic in the ring. Everything that I've seen from her, massive respect to her. I think she's terrific in the ring. I hope she does continue to wrestle, because there's some promotions in Canada, and obviously Canada's not pending. I don't know where in Canada she's going to be stationed at, but there's a lot of places in the States as well. You're not too far away from the States, so that'd be cool to see her in Kadokura on some indies over here in the States and Canada as well. But regardless, she's doing the right thing for her and her family, putting her husband and her marriage first. And, nothing but the best and nothing but well wishes to both her and her husband. And, God bless and best of luck.
Absolutely. what we're going to do is then, because we've got 3 shows to go through, I'm going to read the results out, and then we'll go through basically any matches we want to talk about. We've done this format many, many times before. So we'll start with the Triangle Derby 1 at night 2 from Korakuen Hall on Friday, the 6th of January 2023. A slightly lower attendance of 821 people for this show. The card and results are as follows. Match 1, singles match. Rina Amakura defeated Waka Tsukiyama with the double Amin Buster in 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Match 2 saw a tag team match. The Neo Stardom Army of Yuna Mizumori and Yu defeating Micah and Lady C in 9 minutes and 54 seconds. Match 3 was the first Triangle Derby block match of the night with Classmates moving to 2 points, defeating H&M's with Hazuki getting the submission victory over Momo Koga with the wing clutch in 9 minutes and 11 seconds. Match 4, 8-woman tag team match. The Queen's Quest team of Azumi, Miyu Amasaki, Utami Hayashishita, and Saya Kamatani defeated the Uedatai team of Natsuka Tora, Saki Kashima, Rina, and Ruaka in 12 minutes and 1 second. Match 5, our semi-main event, was a 3-way 9-woman tag team match with the Donna Del Mondo team of Julia, Tekla, and Mei Sakurai defeating Rebel and Enemy, Maika Azaki, Mayu Yukiki, and Ram Kai Chao, and Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi Saki and Yuko Sakurai in 12 minutes and 34 seconds. And then in our main event, our final Triangle Derby block match of the night, God's Eye moved to 3 points, defeating Club Venus with 2 points, when Suri submitted Zaya Brookside with the White Tiger in 13 minutes and 36 seconds. Matt, obviously, I know you'll want to talk about the 2 Triangle Derby matches, and we'll do that in a second. But what else on the card would you like to talk about?
Before we get into it, Rob, I know we have a stacked show, so I apologize, but I kind of just want to pick your brain. Stardom and Korakuen Hall, the last handful of shows, were doing around 1,000 people. Even for the 5-star, they were like 1,300. And I mentioned on this podcast before, they're outdrawing New Japan at Korakuen. So I was shocked when I was watching this show, and 821 people, still a phenomenal house, but there was a lot of empty seats there. And I'm kind of just curious, what would be your opinion why this was about like 400 people short compared to what they've been drawing for a good majority of the year?
It's a Friday for a start. It's a weekday, so the chances are that, depending on when it was, I don't know if it was an afternoon show or an evening show, the chances are people are at work. You look at the card itself, it's a Triangle Derby sort of show, but there's only 2 matches on there. Obviously got the illness to Starlight Kid, to Himika, to Momo Watanabe, so the card's been changed round. You look at it on paper, and with the greatest of respect, it's not, for lack of a better term, the sexiest card. I mean, we looked at it last week, and I think the match that we picked out was Classmates versus H&M's, the Stars versus Stars match, and that was 3rd on the card and only went 9 minutes. So you're not going to get many people who are going, right, well, I want to go to Korakuen Hall, let's have a look at this card. There wasn't anything massive. I think those are contributing factors, and I think it could just be a little bit of fatigue from the amount of shows they've run. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. I'm sure someone more intelligent and far more in the know than me will come up with something a little bit more verbose, but in my head I imagine it's a culmination of the fact that it was a Friday show and wasn't exactly the strongest card.
Yeah, all that. And like, my thing is, I've been in sales, 14, 15 years, and I always know right after Christmas is not a good time because people have already spent a boatload of money. So I think they looked at this card and thought, where can I cut back? And I think that this is kind of maybe where it was. I'll tell you what, though, I thought the show was fantastic. I thought it was the best show of the 3 we're about to review. And the crowd was really into a lot of this stuff. The second match I just want to touch upon real quick, Micah and Yu. It was almost like a mini preview for what we're going to see here on the 4th of February. And I tell you what, no disrespect to Lady C or Yuna, but Nanane and Himika are a little bit better tag partners than for Micah and Yu. And I thought this was fantastic. Again, if this is a little preview of what we're going to see on the the 12th anniversary show, I'm buzzing. I can't wait because I thought this match was really, really solid. I had actually had it 3 3/4 stars. I liked it so much.
Wow. I had it 3.5. I thought it was a really, and considering this was second on the card, I thought it was a really good match. Micah and you, I felt, had pretty good chemistry when they faced off in the tag league. I think that match that they are going to have at the Supreme Fight Show, I couldn't remember the name of it. I think it's going to be really tasty. I think if Nene as well has got her working boots on, and by that I mean her selling boots, if she's willing to make Micah and Himika look good, which she has for the most part, I think this could be a really top tier tag match. Again, I know that you were a little bit down on you due to her selling and inconsistencies and things like that. Are you? Can you see that she's worked on them? Are you
100%?
Yeah.
Yep. I always say, prove me wrong for what she did at the finals against Aphrodite, the match where they won the belts against Meltier at Dream Queendom. Yes, her selling is better. She's giving more to the wrestlers, which builds up the finish. But yeah, and I kind of figured I would, because I'm like, it's there. I've seen her sell it with Suzuki, and I've seen her sell with Mike and Himika and Koguma. She can do it. It's just a matter of if she's going to be unselfish, which she was very unselfish with that match with Mariah and Ami. Sorry, another story for another day. But yeah, she's gotten way better by selling and giving her opponents a lot. She gave a lot to Lady C in this match, but they did a smart thing by booking the bulk of this match, basically Micah versus you. So yeah, I think that I think there's going to be at least 4 matches on this next pay-per-view that's going to exceed 4 stars. But this was really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And the next match I thought was absolutely fantastic as well.
The Stars versus Stars match was honestly, and my first note actually is, this is the epitome of what I want this tournament to be, because it didn't outstay its welcome. It was excellent tag team offense. It was like these two teams had been teaming together, and they have in different sort of iterations, but they had such great chemistry. They worked together so well. There was little stories thrown in as well to stop it just being a standard block match. You had the stuff with Momo Kogo and Hazuki, which I thought was built on really well from their sort of preview match at Dream Queendom. Overall, I thought Hazuki was great. They gave a lot to Momo Kogo. I thought she was highlighted really well. Overall, a really good match. I thought the right team won. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Momo Kogo was the MVP of this match, and they did a really good job considering the fact that Hazuki's been beating up poor Momo Kogo as if she was Natsupoi. But at the very end, after she submitted her, she shook her hands. I like this match considerably more than you. I actually gave it 4 1/4 stars. And to me, this is the greatest Triangle Derby match in the history of Triangle Derby. Yeah, I thought it was. Everybody played their part really well. Even Mayu, who, no disrespect to the other 5 ladies, she's the MVP of stars. And Mayu did a good job getting her stuff in and letting everybody else get over. And I think that just speaks to the unselfishness of Mayu. She just did what she needed to do. She was the glue that held everything together. She got Hana over. She got she helped get the Momo Kogo story over with Hazuki. And she just basically stayed out of the way. Like, I don't need the spotlight here. And I thought that's just another reason why we need to love Mayu.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed the fact that we almost got a culmination of this story with Momo Kogo and Hazuki. Obviously, Hazuki feels like Momo Kogo's not taking it seriously. At Dream Queendom, she was dancing along to the bear dance with Koguma, and Hazuki was not a fan of that. Take it seriously. This is your training. What the hell do you think you're doing? And here I felt like, to start with, she didn't do the dance. She just kicked Koguma straight in the gut and carried on. She proper brought the fight to Hazuki as well, really gave Hazuki a lot. And eventually it was an opportunistic roll out of the pin, lock in the wing clutch for the win. Momo Kogo tapped immediately. But yeah, overall, I thought both teams looked really good. I did sort of earmark Classmates as a team to watch in this tournament, not necessarily to win the whole thing, but one that will consistently put on excellent matches. You've got a great tag team in FWC and a fantastic up-and-coming wrestler in Saya Ida. I've just had a quick thought, Matt, about the attendance figures as well. You mentioned that it's just after Christmas. It's also post-Wrestle Kingdom. So you will have had an influx of sort of travelers who've come to see Wrestle Kingdom and potentially New Year's Dash as well. And then, of course, they'll have gone home, won't they? So potentially that little influx has gone down as well from Wrestle Kingdom.
All right, man. You're a smart man, buddy. Let me tell you.
Do you know what? Genuinely, it's because I was thinking of Velkic. Because I knew he was out there, and I saw something that he was going home in the next couple of days. And I was like, that'll be what it is. People have gone home. Anyway, let's talk about the main event, because I feel like this was a good match, but I think it was there to get the angle over between Mirai, Shiori, and Chihiro Hashimoto. We're talking about, obviously, the main event, which was Aberembo, God's Eye. Aberembo, by the way, I found out means rampage. There you go. So it's Rampage, God's Eye, and Club Venus. Overall, this was good, but I don't think it was a patch on Classmates versus H&M's, Matt.
No, I thought this was really good. And this was actually because of the uploads. This was the last match I watched. I literally watched this last night. So we're going to go and talk about how much I was not a fan of Club Venus at the Tam Nakano tribute show. But they were really, really good here. And I think a lot of it had to do with, don't get me wrong, Mariah May played her role real well. Same thing as Zaya Brookside, but Shiri Amisori and Mariah really made them work for it. And I thought this was a really cool part. Again, we talked about how well the Korakuen Hall show, or how into the Korakuen, the crowd of Korakuen, was into this entire show. And Mirai gets in the ring and she's getting ready to like lock up or like do a knuckle lock. And they start doing the Mirai clap. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I better respond to this because that's my thing. And she literally just looked confused for half a second, was like, oh, wait, they're doing the clap for me? So I thought that was really, really cool how like Mirai got over by literally doing nothing. So, and she's just fantastic. I mean, this trio of Shiri, Amisori, and Mirai, they are absolutely fantastic. And yes, they are now known with the Rampage thing. So me and you and everybody else have this team going to the finals of this tournament. Since more than likely the finals of this tournament will be in Japan, and one of the most famous MMA fighters of all time is Quentin Rampage Jackson. Do you think it's a missed opportunity if Rampage Jackson does not come out with the God's Eye team during the final? Rob?
I mean, you're assuming that it's not already in the bag, Matt. You're assuming that Rossi has not already got that Bushi Road checkbook out and gone, look, I need Rampage Jackson. Come on.
Can you imagine Sherry who screams at every kick and punch that she throws, and then Rampage Jackson doing the howl with a giant chain on his neck? I mean, that's a match made in heaven.
That's the match we all want. Let's be perfectly honest. Yeah, and then obviously Zaya Brookside took a lot of the heat here. I think that is going to be her role in Club Venus. She's going to be sort of the heat magnet, a bit like the Natsupoi of Cosmic Angels. But I think Natsupoi is seen as a little bit more of a threat. No disrespect to Zaya Brookside at all, obviously. But I feel like Mariah May is sort of built as the monster of the trio. And I think she showed that a lot more here than she did on the other matches on the other shows. But overall, this was all to get over the angle. Like I say, Shiori had called out Chihiro Hashimoto, 5-time Sendai Girl World Champion. Unfortunately, no relation to my favorite of the Musketeers, Shinya Hashimoto. But had called her out, said, you should come and watch me at Korakuen. So she showed up in the crowd. There was a confrontation post-match with Mirai taking the mic from Shiori and saying she wanted to have a singles match with Hashimoto, wanted to avenge her loss against her in the 60th anniversary show at Korakuen Hall last April, called herself the Ash-Covered Cinderella, which I thought was quite a cool nickname. But I, again, am criminally short on knowledge on Hashimoto, but I do know that this garnered a lot of excitement, this matchup, Matt.
Yeah, and when she said that, I surround myself with people so much smarter than me. Obviously, you, Rob, and my wife is a legit 4.0 book genius. And as soon as I said that, I'm like, ash covered. She looks kind of tan. She's not super pale. And my wife quickly corrected me, saying, no, that means like she's like not evil, but like really competitive and like really fierce and like basically gay. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's who Mariah is. But I thought that was really cool. Ash covered Cinderella. Maybe a year too late, considering the fact we're on the next Cinderella tournament. Could have made it.
She's been sat on that a long time.
Could have made that T-shirt. Could have made that T-shirt back April. Regardless, I thought it was set up really, really well. I thought this match was really good. FYI, I gave the match 3 3/4 stars. But do you think that Mirai maybe should have gotten the submission win instead of Shiri? But then again, it was Shiri. I'm kind of maybe even debunking my own theory. It was Shiri the one that called out Hashimoto. What did you think? Do you think that Mirai should have gotten the win here, or did it not matter with Shiri getting the tap out here?
I don't think it particularly matters. I think obviously the entire thing was to set up Shiori versus Hashimoto, but Mirai sort of stepped in. I feel like that step in took a lot more people by surprise with the fact that she didn't get the pinfall. I do think that Shiori is, without trying, one of the funniest people on the roster, without like even trying too hard. Just her comic timing is excellent. You know, the way she was trying to, sort of quietly take the microphone from Mirai, like, are you all right? Are you finished? Can I take it? No? Okay, you carry on. You go for it. Can I take it? No? Still no? Okay, fair enough. You do you. I think she is genuinely really, really funny. But yeah, overall, I thought this angle was done really, really well. I'm intrigued to see what Hashimoto and Mirai do. I do expect Hashimoto to get the victory because obviously they are building towards Hashimoto and Shiori. But yeah, very, very, very excited, Matt.
Yeah, Mirai she's in a really good spot. She's that spot where she's like right in between the white belt and the red belt, but she's there to get people over to build them to main event matches. That's a really good spot to have, considering the fact she's only been in the company about a year. But I'm assuming that this match is going to educate the people who have not seen much of Hashimoto of how good she is. I'm fully expecting her to get the win over Mirai, and I think they'll probably do Hashimoto versus Shiri. I think that's going to be probably at the Yokohama Arena show. That would be my guess. I think they're going to give this a long build.
Wouldn't surprise me. Which, again, she's a 5-time Sendai Girl World Champion. She's obviously very, very, very good. And I imagine our extremely educated Discord will be able to point us in the direction of some fantastic Hashimoto matches. Let's move on then to the Triangle Derby Night 3, come to Nagoya. This was the pay-per-view, the surprise pay-per-view, from Sunday the 8th of January from the Nagoya International Conference Center in front of 1,071 people. It's a venue that Stardom have run a lot through 2020, 2021 and onwards. This is the second largest recorded attendance at the venue. Only the Fight in the Top show drew more, which got 1,213. This show, the Triangle Derby show, this outdrew the Midsummer Champions in Nagoya show that had Shiori and Tam Nakano on top for the red belt. So that gives you some indication of how well this show has actually drawn. Again, on the back of, this was initially supposed to have a very, very highly anticipated high-speed match between Azumi and Starlight Kid on it, but obviously that got nixed because of injury. You could have expected the numbers to fall. However, announcing the match between the tag match with Mayu and Shiori versus Utami and Maika, I think probably helped with those numbers somewhat. I'll go through the results, Matt, and then again, anything you want to talk about. I know we're going to talk about the main event, the Wonder of Stardom Championship match. I know we're going to talk about the special tag match, but anything else, just throw it at me. So, match 1 was the Nagoya Rumble. Super strong Stardom machine finally wins an outright Rumble on her own, not helped. Just, we're avenged forever. I'm so happy. Last eliminating Azumi via over the top rope in 13 minutes and 33 seconds. Match 2, a 6-woman tag team match. The Club Venus team defeated Oedo Tai, Natsuko Rina, and Saki Kashima, with Mina Shirakawa getting the pin with the glamorous driver Mina in 11 minutes and 1 second. Match 3, our first Triangle Derby block match, saw the Bari Bari Bombers move to 2 points, defeating Lollipop, with Mei Sakurai getting the pin with a rolling guillotine leg drop. We have lived through a dark time, Matt Turner, a dark, dark time, but we've made it through, and we've made it through it to tell the story. Mei Sakurai, Matt, has a new top rope finisher.
I think it's over. I think other than her doing the double elbow with Julia, is that passable when her and Julia do the double elbow drop? Are you okay with that? That's a long silence. That's a long pause. I'm nervous.
Look, it's better than whatever she trotted out on her own, so sure, why not? This, however, oh my God, where the hell did this come from?
There it is, man. And I think I texted you literally. I watched the show, went to church, and on my drive to to my next adventure, I texted you and I was like, "Yeah, this was good. This was good." Oh, by the way, I think the elbow drop is retired because Mai Sakurai has a really cool top rope move, and it was perfect.
It was perfect. I hope she continues with that because that's far more impactful. Elsewhere on the card, we have got a Triangle Derby block match with Prominence team Risa Sera, Suzu Suzuki, and Hirogi Kurumi moving to 4 points, defeating the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Natsupoi, and Saki, with Suzu Suzuki getting the pin with a German suplex on Natsupoi in 9 minutes and 5 seconds. Our aforementioned special tag match, which was put on the card to replace the high-speed championship match. We have the team of Mai Iwatani and Syuri and the team of Utami Hayashishita and Maika, ending in one of perhaps the most predictable time limit draws in the history of Stardom in 30 minutes. And then our main event was the Wonder of Stardom Championship match, Saya Kamitani defeating Amisori with the Firebird Splash in 18 minutes and 16 seconds. Before we talk about those two main events, Matt, let's talk a little bit about the undercard. What do you think of the undercard in general?
I wanted to touch upon the Stardom Rumble just real quick. So Saida gets in there and she's throwing chops, and I'm like, oh, I've seen her throw way harder chops. And then Lady C gets in there and she's throwing chops, and I'm like, I've seen her throw way harder chops. And you basically have everybody in there, it's just like Mirai's in there throwing forearms, and I'm like, wow, I'm not okay. Momo Watanabe's out, Starlight Kid's out, Himika's out. We don't need somebody breaking their jaw, getting concussion on what is kind of, for lack of a better term, throwaway Rumble, right? I'm like, okay, I get it. They're only going like 50-60%. I respect that. And then Hazuki comes in the ring, as if I couldn't love Hazuki anymore. She's just boot scraping people and throwing forearms and throwing kicks, and I'm like, Hazuki just doesn't care. You're in the ring, it's the danger zone. I just want to point that out. And then some, I just thought that was hilarious. I'm like, okay, I get it. I've been in these battle royals before. It's like, I'm not going to go and kill people with forearms and kicks and whatever. I get it, no problem. And Hazuki's like, yeah, no, okay, here we go. This is what I do. Like, she's just the best. I love Hazuki. Also, super strong Stardom Machine, as you mentioned before, buddy. She eliminates Azumi last. So the super strong Stardom Machine get a high-speed championship match.
I mean, she's got as good a reason as any to have one. So yeah, sure, why not? Throw her in there. I'm more than happy with that. More than happy.
There you go.
But yeah, it was. Someone did not give that memo to Hazuki that we're taking it easy in this Nagoya Rumble, because Jesus Christ, did things pick up when she entered the ring. But this was what it was like in the 5-star. She would enter that match and just go balls to the wall, figuratively, just balls to the wall, kicking people in the head, not caring who it was. And I love her for that. I think she's great for that. I thought the Barry Bombers and Lollipop match was fine. I think it was mainly notable for the rolling guillotine leg drop. But I will say that I've been pretty impressed with Rina Ramakura. What did you think of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this whole Lollipop team is doing fairly well. Obviously, unfortunately, we do know what the result every single one of these matches will be. But like I always say, it's the journey, not the destination. And I think those three girls work really, really well together. But yeah, she seems to be the standout of the team.
Yeah, certainly. That was what I was going to say. Nothing against, obviously, Yuko Sakurai or Waka Tsukiyama. Waka, is going to be taking the fall because it is part of her storyline going forward. And this was so well done on the next night. So well done. But yeah, overall, it was fine. There wasn't anything blow away in this match. I gave it 3 stars. The next match, however, the Prominence versus Cosmic Angels match, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was hard-hitting. We saw a lot of Kurumi, who I don't feel like we've seen a lot of, but she's like a bulldozer. She just absolutely powers through people. And immediately I was like, I want to see her versus Utami Hayashishita.
Yeah, and no fault of her own. It's just Risa Sarah is so good, and Suzu Suzuki is just. I mean, she's Suzu Suzuki. She just commands a room as soon as she makes her entrance way, and then she'll punch you in the face and kick you in the face and drop you on your head, and she will let you drop her on her head as well. But yeah, she's Hiragi's really impressed me in these two matches that I've seen. Not only just these two matches, but even like the championship match where they won the belts against the Uedo Tai team. She's been really, really impressed me, considering the fact that, for lack of better terms, she's the third in the group. Obviously, Suzu's had this phenomenal 5-star run, Risa Sarah as well. So it's kind of like she's almost like an added bonus, and she's been really, really good. And speaking of added bonus, again, you look at the Cosmic Angels team. Obviously, it's Tam, it's Natsupoi, it's Meltear, Saki. Every time I see her, I was really impressed with her in the 5-star, and she's playing her role really, really well with Tam and Natsupoi. I've been thoroughly enjoying the Cosmic Angels, their stuff as well. And there's something, again, I fully expect Tam and Natsupoi to win those tag belts back, Rob. I really want to see a Meltear versus Suzu Suzuki versus Risa Sarah. It doesn't even have to be for the belts. The belts would just be an added bonus. But just by seeing what these four ladies did, in the ring with their combination of tag stuff, that's a dream match that I definitely hope happens somewhere in 2023. Yeah, this was really good. It was nonstop. I think Natsupoi just seems like she's chugging Red Bulls, because she just seems like she's on another level these last 3 or 4 weeks. She just seems like she's going fast. She's taking beatings. She's giving beatings. That low angle dropkick, that basement dropkick that she does, she's just properly kicking right through people's face, which is really good for her, because she just gets beat up in these matches. And that's like one of her big comeback moves. It's like, yeah, I just took 19 moves in a row. I'm going to dropkick your face off in the first row. And she does it so well. So yeah, I thought this was tremendous. What was your star rating on this, my friend?
I gave this 4.
Yep.
And the reason I did, same level, man. Honestly, I thought Natsupoi was fantastic. I don't know what it is about her suplexes, but every single time she throws them, it's so impressive. There was the exchange between her and Suzu Suzuki, where Suzu hit the release German suplex, and Natsupoi lands really high on her neck, and she springs straight up and hits her own release German. And it's always so impressive. I'm blown away by how much of a beating she takes, yet continues to come back and continues to bounce back. This is why I want to see her win this sort of gauntlet match at Supreme Fight, because she's taken a lot of pinfalls recently, because they are protecting Tam. And they're also protecting Saki quite a lot as well, which I don't really understand. But I have to disagree with you slightly, actually. Early on in the tournament, I wasn't massively impressed with Saki. I thought she was a bit vanilla, let's say. She was there, but didn't really do anything for me. And then as the tournament kicked on, she started having some really good matches. And then actually, since the 5-star, she's been pretty good. But yeah, I thought MVPs for me in this match were Natsupoi, who, again, there have been several more members of the Let's Beat Natsupoi Up tour enlisted this week. And I thought Karugi, again, looked really, really, really entertaining. I do like the look of it. I think it's because she's so different to Risa Sarah and Suzu Suzuki. She's far more imposing. Yeah, massively impressed. Let's move on then to the special tag match. Mayu Iwatani and Shiori versus Utami and Hayashishita and Maika, ending in a time limit draw of 30 minutes. You put 4 of the best in Stardom in a ring, and they're going to have a fantastic match. I don't think this surprises anyone, Matt.
No, and we figured to go to a time limit draw. I thought it'd go 20 minutes, but they gave us 30, kind of as a make do of, hey, we were going to give you a Zumi Starlight Kid. Let's make the best of a bad scenario. And they could have given us 15 or 20 minutes. We would have been fine with it. But they gave us 30 minutes, and I thought it was fantastic. And Rob, you said it when we got done with our last alternate commentary, that the current pillars of Stardom are Shiri, Mayu, Julia, and Utami. And you had three of the 4 of the current pillars. And I obviously agree with you. 3 of the 4 current pillars in this match. But to me, the MVP of this match, and I don't think you're going to disagree with me, the MVP of this match was Maika.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I think the way this match is built, the way they put this match together, I think that's when they put this match together, who was getting the big spots here or there. I think that was done on purpose. So good on them getting Maika more over here. And I know that you kind of made a bold prediction when we got done reviewing the 5-star that you think Mike is going to have a phenomenal 2023 and might be a dark horse to win either the Cinderella tournament or have a really big shot at a red belt or win the 5-star, make it to the finals. I was like, wow, I'm a big fan of Micah, but I think she's just missing one thing and she's not just there yet. And this was a big step in the right direction on a pay-per-view in front of 1,000 people in the ring, not only with 3 of the 4 pillars, your last 3 red belt champions, Mayu losing it to Utami losing to Sherry, and 3 of the best wrestlers in the history of this company, and 3 of the best wrestlers going now. And Micah was the MVP of the match. I thought it was absolutely brilliant to get her over in the way that she did. This was absolutely fantastic. I seen some people online complain that it went 30 minutes, that it dragged. For you, I will give you the biggest hug in the world, because the fact that you're complaining that this went 30 minutes, what is wrong with you? You must hate Santa Claus, because I would have taken another 30 minutes. I know we're only 2 weeks into the year. This is my Stardom match of the year, 4.5 stars.
I gave it 4.25. I thought it was fantastic. Again, I said at the top of this match, you got 4 of the best of Stardom. They're going to put on a fantastic match, but Micah really stepped up to the plate, and she's one that whenever she does get the tap on the shoulder, she does step up. She had great matches with Utami for the red belt. She had a fantastic match against Syuri for the red belt in a match where the result was so predictable. Nobody thought Micah was taking the belt, and she still put on an absolute barn burner, and she's still really, really relatively quite young into her career. So to see her progress this quickly is really, really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Go on, carry on. No, you
I was
carry
just
on, man.
I was going to say, you even like her even more, considering the fact that she's rumored to be the best beer drinker in all of Stardom. Does that help you?
I do fully expect on the next Stardom in Showcase show for there to be a beer chugging rules match between Utami and Micah.
Oh my God, yes. Take my money. I usually wait for the Stardom and Showcase shows to go on Stardom World, but I will make an exception for that.
Absolutely. And if Rossi Ogawa doesn't make it a 15-minute time limit draw, I'll be fuming.
We were talking about Karen Peterson booking Stardom. You should book the Stardom and Showcase shows.
Absolutely. It'd be incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I will double down on that prediction. I do think that Micah she's 5-star tournament final material, whether she wins it, especially as the last 2 wins have gone on to Dream Queendom, which has been this huge show. Would she headline a big show? Maybe not quite.
Here's something else I'll throw at you, buddy. You think that Mina has a good chance of winning the white belt, which is a possibility. I don't see her having much more than a 6-month run. What if Mina wins the white belt at Yokohama, and then she loses it to Micah sometime, maybe even at Dream Queendom? Maybe we see Micah winning the white belt at the end of the year.
Wouldn't be opposed to that. Wouldn't be opposed to that at all. But if you think about who we've got in that white belt picture at the moment, Micah, Saya Kamatani obviously is the champion, Mirai, Starlight Kid, Hazuki, Mina Shirakawa. It's a stacked division. And you think about all of those people as well, you can give them a tap on the shoulder to go for that red belt when needed. And that's here, you've got Utami, you've got Mayu, you've got Julia, you've got all these people that can go for this belt. Syuri again. It is really, really, really exciting. But the fact that Micah really did stand up with these and was the standout goes to show just how good she really is. We'll talk about the main event. So Saya Kamatani defeating Amisori to retain the white belt. This was a solid title defense. I think we can agree that Saya Kamatani has had significantly better matches, but I don't think this was a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, Matt.
I love this match, considering the fact that Saya Kamatani's had such a great reign. I know I sound like a broken record. Utami, Tam, Natsupoi, Micah, Himika, Kairi, the Mina match. I know, even though the ending wasn't the ending anybody wanted. But yeah, she's had significant better matches than this. I still thought this was fantastic. I thought this was a great way to close the show. Ami Sohrei, this was a real coming out party for Ami Sohrei, just to give an idea of what she can do and what she's probably going to be doing with the future of Stardom Championship. I'm like, that's just obviously what Hana's done with that belt. And, she really raised the game with that belt. And I think Ami Sohrei is going to do a great job. She's in the ring with my wrestler of the year, Saya Kamatani, and arguably the greatest white belt champion of all time. I still thought this was an absolute barn burner. I thought this was great. They gave Ami enough. They made Ami look like a threat to Saya. Saya's selling has gotten so much better. And considering the fact that Ami's, so much bigger and stronger than Saya, Saya's selling was just on point here. She made Ami look really, really good before she wind up putting her away. And again, that's the most important thing, especially in main event matches, especially in championship matches, which match was both the main event and a championship match. She did a good job building Ami up in the middle of the match, just so, the middle towards the end of the match, just so she can beat her in the end, which is a great mark of a champion. And Saya Kamatani has done a great job with this white belt. Great match. Ami Sohrei's stock went up twofold just in one match. I had this at 4.25 stars. Love this match.
Yeah, I had it at 4. I think the last couple of matches and shows that we have seen Ami Sohrei on, she's done incredibly well. The tag match, or the 6-woman tag, the draw at in the first show of the Triangle Derby, I thought was absolutely fantastic. But I thought here she was a great foil for Saya Kamatani, who I thought bounced around off her perfectly. Again, you could argue the result very, very obvious. There's no way Saya Kamatani's reign is ending at the hands of Ami Sohrei, but I thought this was the perfect. This wasn't about Saya. I know that sounds really stupid because obviously this is, Saya now ties the most defenses with the white belt at 13. She's tied with Momo Watanabe. But this didn't feel like it was about Saya. It felt like it was about Ami Sohrei proving that she could, if needed, be elevated to that position. And they did it last year. They did it with Unagi. They did it with Mina. They've done it countless times with people to basically say, right, we're going to throw you in here. We're going to see what you can do. And I think Ami Sohrei, she wrestled a completely different match to anything I've seen her do before. She was targeting the leg. She was really brutal in her submissions on Saya, who sold it like she was being hit by a cannon. It was great. The result was always going to be Saya Kamatani winning. However, it's worth noting, didn't use the Phoenix Splash, didn't try the Phoenix Splash. Maybe we'll see her break that defense record against Momo Watanabe, who she called out after this match, and that match has obviously been made official for Supreme Fight. Maybe that's where she brings back this Phoenix Splash, Matt.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I still think to basically bookend the story, I think she brings it back with the match with Mina. I think she misses it, and then Mina rolls her up for a false finish, or they can complete the Mina heel turn where she misses the Phoenix Splash. Mina rolls her up and puts her feet on the ropes. Because I don't think we've ever seen any of these major belts change hand on a cheap old school heel thing. Again, that's another story for another day. That's a possibility. But yeah, I wouldn't, again, if you're going to break the record against Momo Watanabe, who I think you mentioned before, this is Momo's first white belt match since she lost the belt to Arisa. What a better way, really, not much of a better way to bring it back out during, what is going to be the most important defense of her career, to try to break the all-time record for the historic run of the Wonder of Stardom Championship.
It's worth noting as well, you say it's historic. Not only is she now she's joint with Momo Watanabe at 13 title defenses in this single reign. She's also the second longest reigning champion. She's currently at 375 days. There's only Yuzuki Aikawa that has a longer reign than Saya, and that's 618 days. That isn't being broken for a long time, if ever. So for Saya to go above the likes of Arisa, above the likes of Kairi, Momo, Io Shirai, to get to that upper echelon of longest championship reign, I think is a huge achievement for where she is in terms of her career. I mean, again, I mentioned at the top of the podcast about how there hadn't been cheering crowds since the second episode. When me and Chris first started this podcast, Saya Kamatani was effectively a rookie. So she'd only just joined Queen's Quest. She'd been photoshopped onto the end of the Queen's Quest photo in perhaps the most hilarious, just it was awful. It was awful. She was in her rookie gear, so she didn't look like she fit in. Like I say, she was photoshopped onto the end, so she looked even less like she fit in. And to go from there to being the second longest reigning white belt champion, having fantastic matches along the way, just proving everyone wrong at Budokan by having an absolutely stellar match with Utami. I think the story that she's written for herself is absolutely fantastic. And whether she drops it to Mina or Hazuki or Starlight Kid, this reign is certainly historic. And I think Saya has done a tremendous job with this reign. I think she's done an excellent job, and it's something that she does deserve, because I think she's done tremendously well over the last couple of weeks. Months is what I meant. Let's move on then to the final show that we were going to talk about, which was night 4 of the Triangle Derby, which is also Tam Road. It was the Anjo 70th anniversary show, and I don't think you'd have known that, because it was possibly the quietest crowd I've ever heard. Like, did these...
You really you didn't really hear it.
Like,
didn't.
Did they have hands? Like, even when Tam came out, and she's the home girl, like, there was very little you could hear. Like, I think Tam expected a little bit more of a reaction, but I don't know. It was very, very quiet. I don't know whether the mixing was wrong or whatever. Bizarre. But this show was streamed in full on YouTube for free, proving that they can do it. Come on, Stardom, get with it. So we had a pay-per-view, then a free show on YouTube. So hopefully, Matt, we are seeing more things. Obviously, all of the New Blood shows are on YouTube. You've got these things on YouTube as well, proving that they have the capabilities of putting things on YouTube straight away, of streaming live. Hopefully, the things are going the right way, aren't they?
Yeah, production-wise, obviously, again, it's the second biggest wrestling company in Japan, and I think the 4th biggest in the world. We talked about that at nausea. That we've seen New Japan do it. WWE's been doing it for forever and a day. There's a lot of independents in the United States that are drawing maybe 200 people that are not backed by a big company like Bushiroad. So, yeah, there's no reason why they can't do it. And they proved they did it here, and the production quality was pretty good. Again, maybe the sound, we don't know. We don't know if the mixing was bad or just they just weren't into it, or they really take that non-clapping crowd or non-vocal crowd thing really seriously in this venue. Not sure what it was, but yeah, it was streamed live on YouTube. The lighting looked good. So come on, let's go. Let's go, Stardom. Let's go. 2023. Let's move into the future. If not, get in the DeLorean with me and Rob. Like I said, I filled it with plutonium. Let's go. We're going.
Let me run through the card then. So we start with the singles match. Tekla defeating Momo Kogo with the delightfully named Dokugumo. Yes, Dokugumo. There we go.
They were confidence.
Absolutely.
They were confidence.
Sorry, I'll say it. Hang on, I'll do that again. Right, you ready? Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Match 1, singles match. Tekla defeated Momo Kogo with the Dokugumo death drop, 7 minutes 20. That was a lot easier, actually, saying it with confidence. Yeah. You're right.
Guess what, Tekla? If that's not the name of your finisher, it is now.
It is now. We also had a singles match with Shiori defeating Yuna Mizumori with the far easier to say buzzsaw kick in 9 minutes and 17 seconds.
I love this podcast. This is the best. I love doing this show.
Match 3 was a 6-woman tag team match with Club Venus defeating the Donna Del Mondo team of Maika and Mai Sakurai, and also Lady C. So rather than Mai Himi with C, we've got Mai with C, with the Tombstone Pile Driver in 11 minutes and 41 seconds. Match 4 saw an 8-woman tag team match. The Stars team of Mai Iwatani, Hazuki, Koguma, and Sayurida defeating the Uedatai team of Natsuko Tora, Rino, Ruaka, and Saki Kashima with the Moonsault in 13 minutes and 3 seconds. The semi-main was a tag team match. The New Eras, Amisori and Mirai, and Aphrodite, ending in the time limit draw in 15 minutes. And then finally, our main event, our Triangle Derby block match, the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Natsupoi, and Saki getting their first points on the board, reaching 2 points, defeating Lollipop, the team of Waka Tsukiyama, Rina Amakura, and Yuko Sakurai, with the Violet Screwdriver, with 14 minutes and 58 seconds on the clock. 2 seconds, and it would have been a draw. It was the most delightfully timed finish, and just adds just that extra beat to that story that all Waka had to do was hang on for 2 more seconds and she wouldn't have lost. It would have been her first match without losing, without taking the pinfall, but no. She couldn't hang on, and with 2 seconds to go, Tam gets the win. I loved it. What a way to close out this match. Absolutely loved it, Matt. But apart from that, what else did you think about this undercard?
I kind of want to just touch upon match number 3 with, I mentioned it before, how good at the Korakuen main event that Club Venus looked. And again, I watched this match, I think the day of. So I watched this match first before the Korakuen, just the way that things lined up. And I just don't think, and I don't want to be negative on this show, but I kind of just want to pick your brain. I don't think Club Venus gelled really well together here. I don't think Zaya Brookside and Mariah May did a really good job complimenting Mina, who's basically the leader of this group. We've seen how well Mina and Unagi complimented Tam when the original Cosmic Angels. We see how well Amisori, Tomoka Inaba, and Mirai compliment Shuri and God's Eye, on and on and on. But to me, it just seemed like Mariah May and Zaya Brookside were really timid in this match. Like they were only running like half speed, especially when they were in the ring with Micah. Like it almost seemed like they were afraid to take like shoulder tackles and clotheslines. There's even one point where like Micah was, she whipped one of them off the ropes. And as Micah was getting ready to either clothesline or give one of them a shoulder tackle, they kind of just stopped and took like a really lazy bump. So I'm kind of just want to get your theory on it. Again, they look great in the Korakuen Hall main event against God's Eye. But to hear, for me, they really didn't gel well. And you can clearly see that Mina is the one really, really pulling the cart here, almost dragging the cart.
It's funny you should mention that. This, for me, was the weakest match that I think Club Venus have had. But I don't know what the sort of ring shape of Mariah May and Zaya Brookside. Obviously, I don't know how many dates they've done back to back before Stardom, because obviously Zaya Brookside was in NXT UK prior to this, then NXT UK sort of folded and the wrestlers were let go. And I don't know what Zaya Brookside did in the interim of that and going to another company. So this it could just simply be fatigue. Not being used to the Japanese sort of touring schedule. It's the first time Mariah May has been in Japan, so it could be that for her. Zaya Brookside, I don't know how many matches she's wrestled in the interim. I might be proved wrong, and she's actually extremely in shape and whatever, but it's a case of maybe, she wrestled on the 6th, the 8th, the 9th, and the 3rd. Maybe it's just a bit of fatigue, Matt.
Yeah, maybe it's a possibility. I kind of just wanted to pick your brain there because it just seemed like the two of them were really out of place. There was even a spot where they were doing like a 3-way striking spot, and they've done each and every one of the matches, but like Brookside's strikes looked, Mariah May's looked, and then like Mina hit like the integrate that she does. And it's like, clearly, if you've never even seen wrestling before, you've never seen these three, that Mina Shirakawa is clearly the star of the three. But like I said, they looked great in that Korakuen Hall main event against God's Eye. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe just a little bit of ring rust. Maybe they were just a little bit beat up from the travel. That's a possibility. But we do see Mina posting videos of them learning the Japanese language on Twitter. So they're definitely taking this stay very seriously. So I just hope that they can gel well together. And I hope they have a fantastic rest of the tournament.
Yeah. I've mentioned that obviously I am a big fan of Zaya Brookside, and I must admit I've been pretty impressed with Mariah May aside from sort of this match. Overall, I think give it time. I'm sure they'll gel, and I'm sure they'll be a force to be reckoned with. Aside from that, this card was the weakest of the 3 cards.
Yeah, it's one match really.
Yeah. It was one match. The New Eras versus Aphrodite was good. I must admit Tekla and Momokogo did well. Syuri and Yuna Mizumori was a very strange disparity of styles. They made it work, but it was very strange to see Syuri effectively wrestling a pineapple. And then, obviously, the main event and Waka Tsukiyama and Tam Nakano. What did you give the main event, stars-wise?
The main event I thought was actually halfway decent. I had 3.5 stars. It kind of killed it. with not having the crowd there, just not being there for what was effectively the whole show is built around Tam. But again, Tam, Natsupoi, Saki Kashima, or not Saki Kashima, excuse me, Force of Habit, Saki, capital S, capital A, capital K, capital I. I thought they all worked really well together. I liked how the match started with some melt tier double team offense on poor Waka. Then afterwards, you had the big Cosmic Angels photo. And did you notice how Mina Shirakawa could give a damn less?
Oh my
Did you notice
God.
that? Could give a damn less.
I posted that photo to Twitter and said, let's play a game of who is going to be turning on it, Cosmic Angels soon.
It's clearly her.
Yeah, she's so done with Cosmic Angels. But what I do like is the reasoning behind it. The whole sort of she was never given the chance under Tam, or she didn't really feel like Tam gave her enough love or whatever. I really enjoy that. And it looks like, if you look at how this post-match was done, it looked very much like Tam was very proud of Waka. And it does make me think, where is this going? Where is this going if come March, Waka still hasn't won? Is Tam going to follow through? And I'm going to ask you outright, Matt. Does Tam win a match? Does Waka win a match, sorry?
Yeah, I think so. Oh man, this Waka story for someone who just can't get a damn win is like one of the best stories in wrestling last year plus. They just keep hooking us with different things, and now you throw on this thing where it's like, well, how does she go with Mia's group? Man, geez, I think she gets a win. She was so close here on almost drawing with Tam. Again, what if it's a tag match where Waka gets the pin on Tam, and it's like, congratulations, you've done it, and Waka's like, nope. Yeah, I beat you. Now I'm going with Mina. I'm going with DDM. Or maybe she's like everybody else that did in the last 2 years. She joins a Widow tie and turns evil. I mean, I don't know,
I did. Do you know what? Genuinely, I briefly thought, what if she does go to not DDM, a Widow tie? I was like, it would make sense, especially if she continues to lose. Like, it's proper driving her insane. You can argue it's driven her to the dark side. I'd love that as a storyline. I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. How about you? What did you give this star rating wise?
I gave it 3.5, I believe. It was, the show itself was probably the one out of the three shows. It's the one you can probably miss. The New Eras vs Aphrodite was okay, but they've had better matches. It was good though. And then the main event, obviously, to see Tam's homecoming and obviously the storyline with Waka, but otherwise not a great deal to talk about on that card.
Yeah. I briefly want to talk about the finish of match number 4. Not only was it the moonsault, but we saw the Freedom rocket launcher dropkick into the moonsault. So anytime that Stars heading back to the old Freedom days, I just have to always mention on this show.
It's never nice watching it. Like, you think, Jesus Christ. Like, you think taking that, especially that one that's Gift for All Eternity on Chelsea Green, you just think, Jesus Christ. Like, how is there anything left of it? Good grief. But yeah, it's always fun to see it come back out. The Triangle Derby then, in terms of standings, obviously we're only 4 nights in, and obviously with the injuries to Starlight Kid Himika and Momo Watanabe, who will hopefully be back for the 15th and for the 14th and 15th shows, which I'll be going through the cards of in a minute. Hopefully we'll have a better picture of how the standings are going to look at the end of those 2 shows. So in red block, tied at the top with 2 points, Club Venus, 7 up. You have also got Classmates. You have got Cosmic Angels, Queen's Quest are on 1 point, H&M's and Unique Glare are on 0 points. Sorry, I'm trying to read the Japanese and the tiny translation above it. Rampage God's Eye on 3 points in blue block, but at the top of the block are Prominence, the only people to be winning 2 matches. And then you've got a glut of teams on 2 points. You've got Rebel and Enemy. You've got Gold Ship. You've got My Himi with C. Classmates are here. Barry Bombers are the one on 2 points in red block. So there is plenty of time for things to change. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Lollipop, as far as I can see, are the only team that have had 3 matches. In blue block, Cosmic Angels have wrestled 3 matches in red block. So each team has got 7 matches, so you're looking at a maximum of 14 points. It's going to be interesting. We'll move on and have a look at these show previews then. This is a doubleheader at Edion Arena, Osaka 2. The first is on the 14th of January, which is Saturday. The second is on the 15th of January, which is a Sunday. So the Saturday show is as follows. We open with a tag team match, Mayu Iwatani and Momo Koga versus Waka Tsukiyama and Miyu Amasaki. We've then got Triangle Derby block matches all the way to the main event. We've got Queen's Quest versus Gold Ship, Barry Bombers versus Aberembo God's Eye, Unique Glare versus My Himi with C, Club Venus versus Classmates, which could be tasty, 7-Up versus Prominence, which will be very tasty, and Cosmic Angels versus Rebel and Enemy. There's a couple of Triangle Derby matches there, Matt, that I think we need to keep our eye on.
Yeah, we have Queen's Quest versus Gold Ship, right? So, so we'll see Momo Watanabe going up against her old team that we over a year ago we still never gotten any resolve from. And I guess maybe we'll see a little preview of Momo and Saya Kamatani for the white belt in that match. And then I don't know anything on this card until you mentioned it. Are we getting another Shiri versus Julia match on the show?
We are indeed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, then we have 7-Up and Prominence destroying each other. Fantastic. Is it announced what the main event of the show is going to be?
No, just says all cards are subject to change.
Of course. That's pro wrestling for you folks.
Absolutely.
What do you think, just off the top of your head, would be the main event?
I think it will probably end up being Cosmic Angels and Rebel and Enemy.
I would say that it's going to be Quentin Rampage Jackson's God's Eye and the Barry Bombers.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, another Julia and Shiori confrontation. But they're very, very high on Meltier and they're very, very high on Rebel and Enemy at the moment. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing 7-Up and Prominence in the main event either, because I think their style will suit them really, really well. We move on to night 6 then, as I've already said. It's a doubleheader at Edion Arena, Osaka. We open with a 4-way match, Koguma versus Mirai versus Miyu Amasaki versus Yuna Mizumori. A 3-way tag team match with Meltier taking on the team of Saida and Hazuki and the team of Shiori and Amisori. Considering it's an undercard 3-way tag, that sounds like a great match. We've then got, again, Triangle Derby block matches all the way to the top. We've got H&M's versus My Himi with C, Barry Bombers versus Gold Ship, Unique Glare versus Rebel and Enemy, Club Venus versus Prominence, and Queen's Quest versus Lollipop. Now, the reason I've said that obviously the running order is subject to change is because at the moment listed for the main event of this show is Queen's Quest versus Lollipop. And with the greatest of respect, I don't think Lollipop are headlining this show, Matt.
But it's Queen's Quest. So, I agree. But again, it's Queen's Quest. So...
It is. It wouldn't surprise me if Club Venus and Prominence end up main eventing. I'll be perfectly honest. I know it's the Triangle Derby, but I'd love to see Meltier versus Sairida and Hazuki versus Shiori and Amisori main event. I think that'd be great. Give it 16, 17 minutes. I'd be well up for that.
Meltier win, please. Can we please get some steam back on poor Tam and Natsupoi?
Can we give Natsupoi a bloody win? just let her win. Just let her take all the moves. That's absolutely fine. But for God's sake, let her win. Anyway, let's move to the second half of this podcast. Hopefully we won't take up too much of your time because I'm very, very aware that the last 2 podcasts we've done have been about 14 hours combined. And
there was nothing to talk about. Well, yeah, we have one show and one match to talk about. We went 2 hours. So
honestly, I've got no idea how this keeps happening, Matt. At least today we've got lots to talk about, so we've got an excuse. However, obviously, on our Twitter, it has been announced that it was the Stardom Cast End of Year Awards 2022, the 3rd annual Stardom Cast Awards, and we asked for your votes, and you voted in your droves. A record-setting amount of people actually responded, which was incredible. Thank you, everyone that lodged their votes on the ballot. Well, we have our results. As per usual, there are 8 categories: Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year, Show of the Year, Tag Match of the Year, Most Improved Wrestler of the Year, Feud of the Year, Moment of the Year, and Faction of the Year. Can Donna Del Mondo be unseated from their dominance atop the Faction of the Year poll, having won it the last 2 times in a row? What we'll do then is, Matt, so I'll go through each category. We'll both give our number 1, and then I'll go from number 3 all the way through to number 1. How would you think about that?
I love it.
Let's do it then. So, Wrestler of the Year 2022, the big one, let's call it. Matt, I think I already know who your number 1 is.
Absolutely, Waka. No, it was
Goken
Death. Saya Kamitani. I mean, it was neck and neck all year with Saya and Shuri, and then just what really Saya did on the tag matches and the 6-person tag matches, and what she did with the reign. And Shuri had a really good shot with her last 2 championship matches with Utami, and then obviously the match she dropped the belt to Julia. But for me, it was just Saya Kamitani.
Yeah, hard to disagree, to be perfectly honest. As a consistency standpoint, I think Saya's had a fantastic year. She's improved sort of match after match after match, and she's put on banger after banger against the likes of Mirai, Starlight Kid, Kairi. Whenever, the back-to-back matches against Utami and Tama World Climax, she's had a fantastic year, and it's a record-setting year in terms of the white belt. I'm over the moon for her because she thoroughly, thoroughly deserves it. And long may it continue, Matt.
Absolutely.
Perhaps a little bit unsurprisingly, this category was a 3-way race. And up until the last day of voting, this was a 3-way tie, believe it or not, which, considering the volume of actual votes we had, is baffling. But in third place, with 22.1% of the votes, it's our new World of Stardom champion, Julia. In second place, with 23.5% of the votes, it's Saya Kamitani, which means that number 1 for the second year in a row, our Wrestler of the Year 2022, with 25% of the vote, it is Syuri, Matt.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, Julia, for what she did, she had a really solid year all year around. She had that 30-minute draw with Mayu, to start the year off. She had that great title challenge against Shuri at a World Climax. She had a fantastic 5-star Grand Prix. She really came on strong towards the second half of the year. But again, like I said, Saya Kamitani is my Wrestler of the Year. You're kind of splitting hairs with with Shuri. So, but you said the 3 of them were so close. I don't know if the votes will ever get that close again. All 3 women deserve that top spot, but obviously me and you gave it to Saya Kamitani. Our listeners, the friends and family of the Stardom Cast, gave it to Shuri. Like I always say, brother, no wrong answer there.
Yeah, it's one of them where I think had any of those 3 won that, it would have been like, yeah, all right, fair enough. I can see that. Match of the Year then, 2022. Matt, I'm going to take a long shot and assume that your Match of the Year is the same as mine.
Yeah, Cinderella Tournament, Koguma versus Fukian Death. Obviously, I think everybody pretty much just has this. It's not only the Match of the Year, I said it when we did the review with Karen Peterson. I think it's the 3rd greatest Stardom match I've ever seen. It's one of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever seen in any promotion. My Match of the Year, not only just Stardom, but in wrestling in general. And in 2022, we saw some phenomenal matches. But yes, Shuri defending the World of Stardom champion against Julia from Dream Queendom.
I think you could have quite easily picked any match from the 5-star this year, from a whole glut of matches from the 5-star this year. 2022 we were spoiled with some of the in-ring quality. I feel like we had so many matches to choose from for our Match of the Year ballot this year, and it really was hard to narrow it down. You got Mayu Iwatani versus Kairi from Historic Crossover, which in itself was a fantastic match. You got the 5-star final. You got all of Syuri and Saya Kamitani's title defenses, and then on top of that, you had Dream Queendom, where Julia and Syuri not only knocked it out of the park, but had possibly one of the greatest Stardom matches of all time. Jesus Christ, what a year! However, we had to narrow it down, and in third place is Mayu Iwatani versus Kairi from Historic Crossover with 11.8% of the vote. Julia versus Tam Nakano, the 5-star final from this year. 13.2% of the vote is in second place. And perhaps the biggest lock of the year, and perhaps the entire time we've done these awards, in first place with a thunderous 47.1% of the vote. It's Julia versus Syuri from Dream Queendom. I mean, rightly so, Matt.
Yeah, Rob, I'll tell you what, if you were to ask me, give me your 1, 2, and 3 matches from Stardom this year, that's exactly how I would go by. And it was neck and neck going into this last month of the year, what was going to be my match of the year between Tam and Julia at the 5-star final, and Kairi versus Mayu. And I went back and watched those matches several times, just because, hey, somebody's got to do it. It's got to be me. So I just narrowly gave the edge for my number 2. Well, at the time would have been my number 1 spot, then my number 2 spot to Tam versus Julia. But then what Julia and Sherry did at Dream Queendom would just completely raise the bar of just how good storyline and professional wrestling can be. But that's literally, again, you're gonna ask me, hey Matt, what's your 1, 2, and 3 from Stardom this in 2022? That's what it would be. So I agree with you, folks. Way to go.
Show of the year, Matt, 2022. Again, there was so many shows you could have picked, and you look just at the start of the year. I mean, World Climax nights 1 and 2 were absolutely stellar. You look at Flashing Champions in May, fantastic show. The Midsummer Champions shows were great. A lot of the nights of the 5-star Grand Prix were fantastic. All in all, again, I mentioned it with the match of the year in terms of shows. And again, the more pay-per-views you put on, the higher the quality of the show. And obviously Stardom put on 8,433 pay-per-views this year. So it's you're bound to have a better quality of show. But I think Stardom knocked it out of the park with a large volume of these shows. What would your number 1 pick be in terms of show?
Again, it was kind of tough, but once again, just kind of going through just everything with a fine-tooth comb, I would have to say the finals of the 5-star Grand Prix. You had so many great matches. Julia's 2 matches. Tam and Saki, that was really good. Risa Sarah and Sherry was really good. Starlight Kid versus Mayu. Micah versus Himika, their first singles match where they just threw forearms for 15 minutes and went to a double knockout. Momo Watanabe and Hazuki. Not enough people are talking about how great that match was. And then just basically culminating, obviously, in Julia and Tam having won the year and just giving the right result with Julia winning the 5-star. So that was my pick. That's what I voted for the finals of this year's 5-star Grand Prix.
It's difficult to disagree with you. I mean, the knee-jerk reaction was to give it to Dream Queendom, but that's very much a case of, it was the latest show. And then you look back on that final show and the caliber of match that they managed to keep up for the majority of the show. I mean, not enough people are talking about Mayu Iwatani versus Starlight Kid.
I gave it 5 stars.
Match.
Yeah,
what
I gave
a
it 5
match.
stars.
I think I gave it 4 3/4. It was an absolutely stellar match, but it didn't get a mention in Match of the Year, which again is a testament to how good the in-ring quality's been this year. You've already gone through the card. I mean, the amount of 4-star plus matches on that card alone was absolutely baffling. And on top of that, you had the final as well, which was, again, a fantastic match, one of my 5-star matches of the year. It turns out that our fans agree, as they have voted thusly. Show of the year, historic crossover, 11.8% of the vote at number 3. Number 2 was Dream Queendom with 22.1% of the vote. And then in first place, as we've already talked about, with 36.8% of the vote, the 5-star Grand Prix 2022, Night 20, the finals. Honestly, I'm not surprised that won. It was certainly my vote, and apparently a lot of people agreed with us as to the match quality on that card. Let's move on to Tag Match of the Year 2022. And this one, for me, Matt, was a lot harder. It's probably the hardest category to choose for me.
When you put this was difficult because I was looking at it. When you put this up on the poll, I didn't think you were going to include any of the artists of Stardom matches, and they are tag matches. So bravo to you, sir, for that. Because to me, my tag match of the year, and there was some great ones. The two matches that Momo and Starlight Kid had with FWC, the Meltier match where they won the belts on FWC against FWC, and there was two fantastic Artists of Stardom Championship matches where My Himapoi dropped the belts to Saki, Momo, and Starlight Kid. But as great as that match was, my favorite tag match of the year was the Oedo Tai team, again, Saki, Momo Watanabe, and Starlight Kid defending the Artists of Stardom Championships against FWC and Hana. This was a huge coming out party for Hana, where it's like you can see how great she's going to be. And we were like, in a year or two, she's going to be great. By the end of that match, like, no. She's great now. And that is not only my tag match of the year, that's the greatest Artists of Stardom Championship match I've ever seen.
It was a great match. It was one of them that got buried a little bit because not only was it sort of in the middle of a pay-per-view, but wasn't it also smack dab in the middle of the 5-star as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it got buried by an absolute, again, I'm going to use the word glut again, but an absolute just mountain of great singles matches that got talked about more. And I think that's probably the issue with the match, because the match itself is fantastic. Really, really, really good. But with it happening in the middle of the 5-star, people forget about it because of the 5-star. There was quite, when you look back and when you consider 6-woman tags as well, there was a lot of matches you could have picked here. There was the tag league final. Yes, it was divisive that 7-Up won, but you can't deny that the match was great. Their match with Meltier at Dream Queendom was fantastic. The Prominence versus Oedo Tai sort of plunder match was great carnage fun. Then you've got the fight in the top match, the cage match between Queen's Quest and Stars. That was a really, really fun match as well. So you had loads of different choices that you could have gone for. In terms of the votes,
what was your number one, buddy?
Really hoping you weren't going to tell me, because I flip flop between quite a few. Obviously, there's the Artist to Stardom match that you said. I was a big fan of the Tag League final, despite the flat finish. But I think 7-Up versus Meltier was probably my tag match of the year.
From Dream Queendom.
It was either that or literally bookmarking the end of the year. There was a show right at the start of the year between FWC and Alto Lavello Cabalawan at Korakuen Hall, where ALK dropped the belts to FWC. That was a fantastic match. That was also up there. In terms of the votes, however, and this is probably the biggest shock. So, in third place, we had the Tag League final between 7-Up and Aphrodite with 10.3% of the vote. In second place, we had Queen's Quest versus Stars from Fight in the top with 11.8% of the vote. And then at the top, we have Prominence versus Oedo Tai from Dream Queendom for 23.5% of the votes. Of all the votes and all the winners that were cast in our end-of-year awards, this was the one that took me by surprise, Matt.
Well, hey, that's good. It's nice to have a difference of opinion. I mean, I think a lot of people, you pretty much have the same 1 and 2, just about everything. Wasn't shocked at where the votes were for Wrestler of the Year and Match of the Year and so on and so forth. So it's nice to have a little difference of opinion. So, but you touched on just a few minutes ago that I think really everybody, because it kind of gets lost in the shuffle, go back and watch that Artist of Stardom Championship match with Oedo Tai defending against FWC and Hana. I'll tell you what, I'll do you one better. Only if Rob wants to do it. Maybe we'll do it as a bonus episode, as an alternate commentary. How about that?
That would be awesome. Maybe we revisit our list from last year, and maybe we do a hidden gems.
Love it. Whatever you want to do, buddy, just let me know.
Let's move on to Most Improved Wrestler of the Year, which seems like more of a slam dunk than the tag match of the year. I believe, Matt, we're probably going to be of the same opinion with Most Improved Wrestler of the Year, aren't we?
Yeah, Kari, way to go. You know what? I mean, as great as Hannah was, and she was absolutely fantastic. And again, I just got done watching the 12 matches from her future reign, and I think she's going to win this award next year. But I think that if I had to vote, like do a 1 and 2, she would be second. But number one, not only just in Stardom, but all of wrestling, is hands down Mina Shirakawa.
Completely agree with you. However, I am going to make a point of making a special mention to Mai Sakurai, because I have given this woman so much abuse on this podcast for just not improving for such a long time and seemingly going backwards at times. She was uninteresting. Her moveset was really clunky. Her finisher was the worst thing I've ever seen. And then,
Jesus.
well, all of these things, you go back into the archives of the Stardom Cast, these are all things I've said. But something clicked with her, whether it was the change to Donna Del Mondo or whether it was the start of the qualifying for the 5-star and her 5-star run. Suddenly, not only did she progress, but she progressed at such a phenomenal rate. And she's certainly not the finished package by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I'd be remiss to not mention how much she's improved. So excellent to Mai Sakurai, but my most improved wrestler is Mina Shirakawa. For someone who was literally in the 2020 Goddess of Stardom Tag League, was literally named after her boobs, and it was sort of seen as a one-dimensional thing. To come into 2022 and be seen as a legitimate threat, have the 5-star that she did, to then have, so many people suddenly thinking that she should be the next white belt champion. If you'd have said that at the end of 2020, people would have laughed in your face. Yet here we are, and Mina Shirakawa has got her own mini faction in Club Venus, and suddenly she feels like an absolute rock star. So, yeah, hands down, this was a slam dunk for me. And it was for the rest of the voters as well, because in third place, Lady C with 7.4% of the vote, which I was quite happy to see that. Second, and deservedly so, Mai Sakurai with 13.2%, and then running away with it with 42.6% of the vote. Nearly half the votes was Mina Shirakawa. Completely unsurprising. She had a fantastic year, and 2023 is shaping up to be an even bigger year for the Venus, so I'm very intrigued to see what 2023 holds for Shirakawa. Last four, in fact. I thought we had three. We've got four more categories. No, we haven't. We've got three. Can't count. It's nearly midnight here in Britain. Feud of the Year 2022. Now, I would just like to make a special mention that Mayu Iwatani versus Ryogoku Kokugikan got 11.8% of the vote, and I've never been happier.
Yeah, that would seem like it would be pretty funny. That's great. That's good for you people.
At one point, when I first opened the vote, that was winning, and I'm so upset it didn't win. But yeah, Matt, what was your feud of the year this year?
When it comes to your feuds of the year, and I get it, like, you have those blood feuds, like ECW did such a great job with like Raven Salmon, Raven Dreamer. But my favorite feuds are actually rivalries, like, Steamboat Flair. Like, it's just who's better. Tanahashi Okada, who's better? Misawa Kawada, who's better? So to me, it wasn't like an actual, maybe a little bit of a heated feud, but it was just who is actually better. And really, we never got the answer, because I have Shuri versus Julia. And the reason why we didn't get that answer, because they had 2 singles matches and it's 1-1, which means hopefully somewhere in 2023, we have the rubber match. But I had Shuri and Julia because their first match, I had 4 3/4 stars. Second match, I had 5.5 stars. So if you do the math, it's over 5 stars between the two. So that was my feud of the year, Shuri versus Julia.
I can't imagine you're the only person that's had that thought, Matt, to be perfectly honest. Myself, it was Natsupoi and Tam. To go from the heated rivalry that they had inside that cage to where they are now in Meltier, and the difference in especially Natsupoi, I think, has been tremendous. And that entire arc has been incredibly fun to follow. So I'm going to go with that. Both of our votes have featured in the top 3. So as I mentioned, Mayu versus Ryogoku Kokugikan did not feature in the top 3, which is criminal. Be better, people. In third place was Suzu Suzuki versus Julia with 20.6% of the vote. Just ahead of it was Julia versus Syuri. And then at number 1 with 32.4% of the vote was Tam Nakano versus Natsupoi. So again, a really, really, really close run thing. moment of the year now. And this I thought would be a slam dunk, Matt, and it turns out not so much. But what was your moment of the year?
Rob, I don't have everything in front of me, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the one that has Julia winning the belt and Kairi's return as two options?
It is indeed.
Because the reason why I'm said that is because I kind of knew what I was going to vote when everything came up. I kind of already had an idea. The only one I paused at was the one that we just talked about. I wasn't sure if I was going to do Tam versus Natsupoi or Julia versus Shiri. I explained why I had Julia versus Shiri. And this one, I was going back and forth because out of all these moments that you listed, all were great, but only two of them had me in legit tears. Obviously, we talked about it when we did our Dream Queendom review, where I literally stood up in my living room at like 7:30 in the morning after being up for 6 hours watching the show as when Julia won the belt. Literally giving a standing ovation with tears in my eyes. But for me, just slightly beating it is the return of Kairi. And when we talked about on this podcast, when she returned back in the spring of last year, I knew they were doing a press conference. I didn't know what the press conference was about. As I talked about all the time on the show, I do my workouts early in the morning. It's like 4 after 4 in the morning. I'm getting my stuff ready, my water ready, whatever, my pre-workout. I'm like, well, let me just see what's going on Twitter. And then the video showed up, and I'm literally in my kitchen at 4:15 in the morning crying. I think the exact words I used on this podcast many months ago is I'm going to be a 40-year-old man in a few months, and I'm in my kitchen in Nowhere, Pennsylvania, drinking pre-workout, crying because a 110-pound Japanese woman who dresses like a pirate returned to her home promotion. That sounds silly, but that's literally, I was going back and forth, and I was like, that's what I have to go with. That's what I have to go with. And I think this Kairi, her run has been absolutely fantastic, especially these last 2 or 3 months. I think she just emits so much emotion towards Stardom and her, the passion she has for her matches and just what she's been able to help the company do these last 9 or 10 months. So I was literally going back and forth, splitting hairs, but that's what I went with. I went with Kairi's return.
I agree with you. Now, the only thing that I thought with this was if you're a newer fan of Stardom and don't quite know of the legacy that Kairi left when she left for WWE, the return might not have hit as much as it did with the more experienced fan, the fan that's been there for longer. So it wouldn't surprise me if, something from this year, for example, Julia winning the belt, for example, would beat it out. For me, it's got to be Kairi's return simply because I didn't think it would ever happen. And, it does make you think, oh my God, maybe an Io Shirai return will happen, but it won't. It won't, Matt. Sorry.
We had text conversation about this yesterday, but this is another story for another day.
Natsupoi turning on DDM was our third choice in 20.6% of the vote. In second place was Kairi, returning to Stardom with 23.5%. And then at number 1, Julia winning the World of Stardom Championship, 29.4% of the vote. Again, it's newer, it's rawer, and again, newer fans aren't going to understand the legacy that Kairi has left potentially, which is why Julia winning the World of Stardom Championship has beaten it. However, also by that token, Julia winning the World of Stardom Championship was an outstanding moment following an outstanding match. I have no issue with that being number 1.
No. Like I said, I was literally scrolling. I think I clicked the Kairi one, I clicked the Julia. I just kept going back and forth, and I was like, these 2 moments made me cry tears of joy. But one made me do it at like 4:00 in the morning. The other one was 7:30. So I don't know what the difference with that was. But again, it you really could have flipped the coin. It could have went either way.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, our faction of the year, as I mentioned, Donna Del Mondo have had something of an anaconda lock on this award category for the last 2 years. Will it be broken here? Matt, who has been your faction of 2022?
Rob Good, my good friend, this is how good Stardom is. You can literally make a case for every one of these factions. God's Eye, even though they've only been there 8 months. Donald Del Mundo, for obvious reasons. Cosmic Angels, for the whole Natsupoi turn and Tam's run in the 5-star. You can make that. argument there for what Oedo Tai has been able to do, over the last month, the last year, turning things around, with Momo and Starlight Kid just being main eventers and Tora coming back and Saki Kashima playing just a great role in that Artist of Stardom championship run. But I mean, literally, you can make an argument for every single faction. It's crazy. But for me, to the surprise of no one, bow down to the queens. Sai Kamatani, the wrestler of the year. Azumi may go down in history as the greatest high-speed champion. Utami, who's the only person in this group that's not the champion. Oh, by the way, she had a phenomenal year. Some of the best matches of the year involved Utami. She's the leader of this faction. And Lady C's improved so much. The little bit that we saw from Hina, she was really, really good. And Miyu Amasaki's starting to do really doing some improving, the last few months of the year. But to me, Queen's Quest, bow down to the queens.
Yeah, that surprises absolutely no one, Matt. I'll echo what Matt said then about how you have a case for every faction, in the fact that this is the first time where we've actually had a vote or more for every single faction. So it does go to show how every faction has improved. I think Stars have done tremendously well. Their inter-faction matches are around the best that Stardom do. I think Donna Del Mondo, there's been a huge reshuffle in Donna Del Mondo with obviously the break off of God's Eye, the introduction of Tekla and Mei Sakurai, Natsupoi leaving to join Cosmic Angels. It's been something of a tumultuous year for Donna Del Mondo, but I still think they've had a really, really good year. Cosmic Angels, however, for me, this has been their year, which is bizarre when you think that Unagi's left, Mina Shirakawa is on the precipice of leaving. They've absorbed colours. Natsupoi's come in. Waka Tsukiyama is on the verge of leaving potentially. So it's been a tumultuous year for them as well, but they've been at the centre of absolutely everything it's felt this year, whether that is Tam in high-profile matches or whether that is Pink and Buki going for titles or whether that's the whole Natsupoi storyline or whatever it is. Cosmic Angels seem to be at the centre of it, and I've really, really, really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure about the faction when they first started. I like my opinions on Unagi's push, and horrible to say, but I didn't really see much in Mina either. I let that colour my opinion of the Cosmic Angels. However, they've proved me wrong, which I'm really glad about. Overall, I think they're my faction of the year. In third place, you have voted Donna Del Mondo. We've got new winners, Matt.
Oh, my goodness. I'm scared.
I'll give you a clue. 1 and 2 on mine and yours. In second place.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, my goodness.
With 14.7% of the vote. It's Queen's Quest, which means that in number 1, with 29.4% of the vote, is Cosmic Angels. It was a real runaway in the end because I really did not think that Cosmic Angels would win by that much. There was a huge, like a 15% swing. But even so, Cosmic Angels are your faction of the year 2022. Again, to everyone that voted, we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for interacting with us. We really, really, really do appreciate it. Matt, we've reached the end of the podcast, and lo and behold, we've gone 2 hours. So we should probably start saying our goodbyes.
Absolutely, sir. Yes. And my wife just texted me. She's like, I'm leaving because she's going to my nephew's basketball game. Dinner is in the oven. So, all right. Yeah. Might be time to wrap this baby up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for sticking with us and for listening to us. We massively, massively appreciate it wherever you are. Don't forget you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Share the podcast. We'd love it if you left us a comment or a rating. It properly helps the podcast out. We cannot stress enough how much that helps us out. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/the Stardom Cast, including our brand new patrons, Chris Bruce, and Chris Miller as well. Thank you so much for subscribing to our Red Belt tier. If you want to check out all of our extra podcasts and everything that we do, go and check out patreon.com/the Stardom Cast. If you miss any episodes or anything like that, you can always go to the stardomcast.com, where we've got everything from championship histories, in-depth match guide, an introduction, how to watch, all those good things, tournament results, all of those things you can find at thestardomcast.com. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. You can find the podcast on all social media at The Stardom Cast. Matt, where can they find you and send us home, good sir?
Before I tell you, I completely forgot with everything going on in this podcast. Keep your eyes peeled because there's going to be another new Stardom Cast logo probably coming up in the next week or two. So get excited. Another variant logo. So everyone keep your eyes peeled for that. You can find me on Twitter and or the Instagram, Matt Turner OF. If you do not want to use social media to get a hold of me, that's not a problem at all. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the other best way to get a hold of me. Again, folks, thank you so much for all the support. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Please help us continue to grow the podcast because Rob and I need an excuse to drop more bonus content on the Patreon and watch more wrestling. And apparently all Japan wrestling from the 90s as well. So just keep helps supporting and growing the show. It means the world to us because like I always say, folks, just not my podcast, it's our podcast because we're all in this together and everybody's different, everybody's special.